possibility of parole and a life sentence without the possibility of parole, and gives absolutely, as Mr. Goff pointed out, no guidance to the court as to what factors to take into account when differentiating between people convicted of murder. But I know this court, Your Honor, has been on the bench long enough and has tried a number of cases, including murder cases, in which you've had to make those decisions. And you've had to differentiate between defendants and be consistent in your rulings, in your sentencing, probably the hardest thing any court has to do, which is to sentence a person to time in prison. In this case, in which the state is seeking the harshest possible sentence allowable under the law, we're asking the court to reserve the harshest possible sentence under the law for those who deserve it, for the worst of the worst. When the facts of the crime show a darkness of soul, a person so depraved and heinous as to shock the conscience by their actions, or where the offender is such a danger as evidenced by his past conduct, or by his actions post-offense, such that rehabilitation is remote or impossible, those are the offenders who deserve the harshest possible punishment under the law. Those are the offenders who people would argue deserve to spend the rest of their lives in prison. Neither of those scenarios encompasses Travis Mcmichael or the conduct for which he was convicted. And like Ms. Donikoski, I want to spend just a couple minutes reviewing the conduct for which he was convicted, because I agree with something she said, maybe for the first time in this trial. When Travis Mcmichael woke up on that Sunday morning with his son Everett in his house, his goal was not to go out and kill somebody. His goal was to play with his kid. When he sat down for lunch with Everett, possibly with Greg and his mom, Lee, and sister Lindsay, his goal was not to commit a crime that day or kill somebody that day. His goal was to have a family afternoon. And when he was putting his son down at 1 o'clock or so in the afternoon, he was doing what every single person wants to and should be doing, which is taking care of their toddler son. When he got in the truck at his father's behest to find out who that person was sprinting down the road, his goal still was not to commit a crime. His goal still was not to hurt that person, but to merely investigate, to find out what was that guy doing back at the house where Matt Albanzi was motioning. And then 4 minutes later, Mr. Arbery's dead. Mr. Mcmichael's covered in blood. And we have what we have here and what the jury heard. And he was convicted. The jury found that his actions constituted malice murder, felony murder, and the underlying felonies. But this is not a case in which he just targeted someone recklessly, targeted someone without knowledge, misidentified someone. He knew Ahmaud Arbery. He had encountered him previously. And he had known about the fears that the neighbors felt at Mr. Arbery's continued presence. I'm not going to retry the case. The jury found that those facts did not add up to probable cause and did not justify Mr. Mcmichael's actions. But he didn't just go out and shoot Mr. Arbery. He only fired the shots, the fatal shots, when Mr. Arbery came at him and grabbed the gun, as Dr. Donahue demonstrated. These were not, and as reckless as those acts may have been, as Ms. Donikoski pointed out, as thoughtless as they may have been, they are not evidence of a soul so blackened as to deserve to spend the rest of his life in prison. This was not a planned murder. This was not a murder involving torture. It was a fight over a gun that resulted in Mr. Arbery's death. And for that, the jury found Mr. Mcmichael guilty. The state contends that 99 good acts don't overcome one bad act. And of course, legally that's true. Mr. Mcmichael is now a convicted felon. But 99 good acts do weigh in this court's consideration, do factor into what choice this court is going to make when sentencing Mr. Mcmichael to either spend the rest of his life behind bars or give him the possibility of redemption. And those acts, those 99 good acts, the court heard about those in the bond hearing. The court heard that during his time as a lifeguard at a camp for kids who have family members with terminal illnesses, that Travis Mcmichael actually saved the life of a boy who was drowning in the pool. The court heard that Mr. Mcmichael, while serving in the Coast Guard, literally saved the lives of family members who were on a boat that was taking on water. The court heard that Mr. Mcmichael saved the crew of a Coast Guard vessel while serving in the Coast Guard. The court heard of the letters of commendation given to Mr. Mcmichael by his superiors for various acts that the superiors said show superior dedication, selfless devotion to duty and consideration of others, and adherence to our core values, honor, respect, and devotion to duty. They don't excuse anything that happened on February 23rd, but when the court is weighing in the scales of justice what people deserve to spend their lives and then die in prison versus those people who deserve to be punished but then hold out hope for redemption, those are the acts the court should consider. Mr. Mcmichael was a devoted father to Everett. He had Everett 50% of the time, shared custody with Everett's mom, and in fact, early on was shown to be the more reliable parent, although I know that changed over time with his mom stepping up. He was a friend to many people who are now too scared to come to court and speak on his behalf. As the court knows from the testimony it heard in trial and at the bond hearing, he was always a hard worker, always had a job, never laid around letting other people support him, always paid taxes, always supported his community in a variety of ways. The discovery that we received is replete with FBI and GBI interviews of people in his community, people who told law enforcement officials of the times Mr. Mcmichael helped them when they were having problems, when their boat became unmoored, or when their docks were pulled off from storms, and Mr. Mcmichael was out there finding those things and bringing them back to the owners, or helping other people in the community, just as he thought he was doing on February 23rd. Actions that, in hindsight, turned out to be thoughtless, as Ms. Dunikowski said, were reckless, but were not evidence of an abandoned and malignant heart. Nothing in Travis Mcmichael's life suggests that he's a danger to society now, or will be a danger to society 30 years from now, after he has time to think, to work, to grow. When he's in his 60s, older than me right now, do we still want a person like Travis Mcmichael behind bars? There's nothing in his post-offense conduct that shows that he's either mentally unstable or a sociopath. He cooperated fully with police. He told the police everything he knew to tell them because he thought he was doing the right thing, even if that thing turned out not to be right. He and Greg Mcmichael thought they were helping their community. They thought they were helping the police catch someone who inexplicably had been in a house, and we still don't know what he was doing in the house, on 4 or 5 different occasions. He never fled. He never tried to obstruct the investigation. When he talked to his neighbors about what happened, he always expressed remorse and disbelief. If life without parole is reserved for the worst of offenders, those who are so scary, so unpredictable, and so likely to pose a threat in the future, then it is not appropriate for someone like Travis Mcmichael. The only purpose of a life without parole sentence, Your Honor, is vengeance. It's retribution. And the urge to seek vengeance is strong and understandable in the family. Lord knows if I was in their position, I would be seeking the same thing. But vengeance is not the foundation of our sentencing in our criminal justice system. Redemption is. Redemption is the belief that a person can learn, can grow, and still contribute after punishment. It is pointless to continue to punish a person who has undergone changes in character that distance him from the person who committed the crime decades previously. Travis Mcmichael, 35 years old now, should have the opportunity to show that he's grown, to show that he's changed, and the parole board, years from now, is in the best position to determine whether he should remain behind bars or can serve a useful purpose to society. Who knows where we will be as a society in 30 years? Why make a decision today that impacts so many people long after we're gone, long after you and I are retired, hopefully, but that binds the hands of those who will have to live with this decision 3 decades hence? Why make a decision today that snuffs out all possibility of growth, of redemption in Travis Mcmichael? Compassion for Travis Mcmichael and the humility to admit that we don't know what's going to happen in the future doesn't diminish the compassion that we feel for Ahmaud Arbery's family. Their loss is real and understandable. And their desire for the maximum punishment is real and understandable. But again, that's why we have judges imposing sentence and not the families of the victim. Because there are a lot of factors this court takes into consideration: deterrence, rehabilitation, retribution. Those are all valid factors. But the only thing an LWOP sentence serves is retribution. Wouldn't it be healing for Mr. Arbery's family, for Travis Mcmichael to atone, to be able to express the remorse that's in his heart without the specter of a federal trial hanging over his head? We've heard several times today that he's shown no remorse, but this court knows that no lawyer would allow Mr. Mcmichael to say anything about his feelings towards the family while there were 2 pending murder trials against him. When the witnesses were interviewed by law enforcement about Mr. Mcmichael's conversations with them, to a person, they said that he showed remorse, that he never wanted to kill somebody. He was merely trying to detain Mr. Arbery for the police. It is disingenuous and unfair to express Mr. Mcmichael, to expect Mr. Mcmichael to express remorse with yet another trial beginning in 3 weeks, where everything he says can be used by the federal government against him. Wouldn't it be powerful, though, for Travis Mcmichael to look deep into himself and explore with the public, with his son Everett, why he did what he did, and in fact become a force for good while in prison and out, instead of one more old man behind bars costing taxpayers $50,000 a year or more in 30 years? Wouldn't it be healing to society for someone like Travis Mcmichael to be free to help heal the wounds that are certainly present in this country due to decades and decades and decades of discrimination, of racism, wounds that we're just now beginning to try to heal? Judge, you can send a message that 4 minutes of conduct does not erase a life well lived, and that after punishment, there is opportunity for redemption, an opportunity that Travis can either take advantage of and prove himself worthy or not, and that the parole board can then determine whether he should be released from prison. We are not asking you to do anything, Your Honor, but to agree that we don't know today what the future holds. We're asking you to sentence him to life with the possibility of parole if it's earned. Judge, as far as sentencing, I disagree with the state. I believe count 7 and count 9 do merge. I believe the language of chasing Mr. Arbery through the Satilla Shores neighborhood that is stated in count 1 and also stated in counts 7 and 9. Were used up, were subsumed, and would be therefore would effectuate a merger of those crimes. In either event, this court has wide discretion in how it fashions this sentence. And we'd ask the court to exercise this discretion in favor of growth, in favor of redemption, in favor of hope, for not just the Mcmichael family, for not just Everett Mcmichael, but for the Arbery family and what Travis Mcmichael can prove himself worthy of in the future. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, I think we're probably at a good breaking point. Let's go ahead and take a break, let everybody get some lunch. We will plan on reconvening at, let's do 1 o'clock. It's just before 12 o'clock now, and we will continue with proceedings at that time. Thank you, everybody.
All right, so lunch break. This is going to be, as they believed, most of the day sentencing hearing. Amazing things that we have heard from today. First, I want to go to Joey Jackson as our expert panel. Joey, the victim impact statements were amazing. They were emotional, 3 of them altogether, but the mother of Ahmaud Arbery respectfully addressed the judge, but talked to her son as she was giving this victim impact statement.
Has to be so difficult, Gene, and looking at these and dealing with them, personally and evaluating them. These are the worst of times for families because it brings back everything that the person meant to you, all they were, all they could have been, all they meant, all the promise that their life had. And then when you certainly, to your point, looking at the mom and even addressing, the issue and really the toenail issue, which was most unfortunate, but speaking about her son being born on Mother's Day, speaking about her son being a greedy baby, speaking about the fact that he had so much life in him and, what his life was worth and what he meant to her and the family and what his absence will mean. And then, of course, not forgetting what the father said and initially being the one to talk about his son and the sister going into issues as it relates to his hair, his complexion, who he was, his jokes, etc. Collectively, the damage that all of you defendants have done. How dare you take him away from me, right? And so the bottom line is that these are very, very difficult, Gene, but they really bring to life the consequence of actions and activities which should not have occurred. And so I don't think this is something that the judge will take lightly as it relates to what the family has said and what he has meant, that is Ahmaud Arbery, to that family. And so at the end of the day, I think that really, and I'm glad so much, Gene, that you focused on that initially. I think that those victim impact statements are powerful and will go a long way to get the prosecution what they want, which is life without parole for the Mcmichaels and seemingly life with parole for Mr. Roddy Bryant.
And Joey, you have to go to break, but it's so important. The judge takes into consideration what is said. And Ahmaud Arbery's mother, Wanda Cooper Jones, she was begging the judge to have him sentenced life without the possibility of parole. That is how she ended her victim impact statement. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
Not every fairy tale
It went from planning a wedding
is happily ever after.
to now you're planning a funeral.
Legends, killer newlyweds, back-to-back episodes, Sundays at 9 on each other.
Ruined our meal. I got everything right, except for the plates.
Don't get paper plates that'll leave a stain on your pasta. Get Dixie Ultra Deep Dish Plate. Extra deep to help prevent spills. Dixie, make it right.
Honey, I respect that, but that sauce looks pretty bad. Try this local custom printer.
For real honey you love, plus the powerful copper review.
Mind if I look through your trash?
Now get powerful relief with Robo Custom Elder Bag. Involve lots of windows, create light.
Sugary soda. I love soda. Here's some pizza. The best food in the world.
Uh-oh.
Want some of my pizza? No, thank you. I'm trying to watch my
This
grades.
Geico makes bundling our home cars so it's easy.
We save a lot.
I know. Bundling made easy at Geico.com.
I'm living with CLL, and thanks to Imbruvica,
I'm living long.
Imbruvica is a prescription medicine for adults with CLL or chronic lymphocytic leukemia. Imbruvica is not chemotherapy. It's the #1 prescribed oral therapy for CLL, proven to help people live longer. Imbruvica can cause serious side effects which may lead to death. Bleeding problems are common and may increase with blood thinners. Serious infections with symptoms like fevers, chills, weakness, or confusion, and severe decrease in blood counts can happen. Heart rhythm problems and heart failure may occur, especially in people with increased risk of heart disease, infection, or past heart rhythm problems. New or worsening high blood pressure, new cancers, and tumor lysis that can result in kidney failure, irregular heartbeat, and seizure can occur. Diarrhea commonly occurs. Drink plenty of fluids. Tell your doctor if you experience signs of bleeding, infection, heart problems, persistent diarrhea, or any other side effects.
I'm living longer with Imbruvica.
Ask your doctor if it's right for you. Learn how we can help you save on Imbruvica.
You don't know how much pressure you put on your septic system, but Ridex does. In a 21-month study, scientists proved that Ridex reduces up to 20% of waste buildup every month. Take the pressure off with Ridex.
What's my seaplane story? My car is more than four wheels. It's my after-work decompression. So when my windshield broke, I searched for someone who really knew my car. I found the experts at Safely Auto Glass. With their exclusive technology, they fixed my windshield, then recalibrated the camera attached to my glass, so my safety systems still work. Who knew that was a thing? Safelight has service I can trust.
Safelight Repair. Safelight.
Since 1992, Curtains and Things has been transforming homes in Conway and along the Grand Strand. Shop our large showroom for the area's best selection of ready-made balances, panels, and bedding. Or let us help you choose a specific style and fabric to customize a look just for your home. And the best part, there's a price for every budget. Home decor, personal and gift lines include indoor-outdoor pillows, cushions, and settees, computer, jewelry, scarves, candles, flags, and much more. Plus free gift wrap for all occasions. So come see us at Curtains and Things.
They say cats have 9 lives, but you and I just get one. And if you've been injured in a car wreck, it's so hard to land on your feet. You need a check, and you need it fast. You need it. No. Medical bills, lost wages. We have the experience to help you get the whole kit and caboodle. Every dollar you deserve. Faster. Just call.
Hey guys. What y'all think about the trial? I'm on a commercial right now.
And welcome back. The court is in a very short lunch break right now. It was just minutes ago.
They're in a lunch break. But I think this was very important to share because it really didn't make any sense. And it's really sad to take someone's life like that. To me, it was very touching to hear Mom talk about it. So, it's just really emotional for me right now. And listen to his dad talk.
You know something that I just
Listen to this.
doesn't sit right with me at this time. The man who killed my son has sat in this courtroom every single day next to his father. I'll never get that chance to sit next to my son ever again. Not at a dinner table, not at a holiday. And not at a wedding. He'll never get to have I pray that no one in this courtroom ever has to do what we had did, that buried their child. There is no word for that because no word knows that much pain. Not only did they lynch my son in broad daylight, but they killed him while he was doing what he loved than anything, running. That's when he felt most alive, most free. And they took all that from him. When I close my eyes, I see his execution in my mind over and over. I'll see that for the rest of my life. When I became a father, my life became bigger than me. It became about my family, about protecting him, protecting my boy. I know in my head that there's nothing I could have done that day to have saved my son, to have protected him from that evil and hate. But my heart is broken and always will be broken because on my worst day or our lives wasn't there. If I could, I'd have traded places with Ahmaud in a heartbeat, but I can't. So I'm standing here today to do what he can, and that is to fight for him, fight for his memories, his legacy, and to tell you who he was, because that's the one thing you didn't hear in this courtroom. And more than anything else, you should know who my boy was. We love our son and we will never have him with us to celebrate anything. Thanksgiving, Christmas, or his birthday. His kids should spend the rest of their lives thinking about what they did and what they took from us. And they should do it from behind bars. Because me and my family, we got to live with his death the rest of our life. We'll never see Ahmaud again. So I feel they should stay behind them bars the rest of their life because they didn't give him a chance. Thank the court. Thank y'all for what y'all did for our family stuff by house. Thank the jury. I give all glory to God. Thank y'all.
So much from the heart. Marcus Arbery just told the judge and the court that he wished he had been the one that had been shot and not his son. I want to introduce our expert legal panel today. They are the best in the business. First of all, Joey Jackson, former prosecutor, currently practicing defense law, one of the best in New York City. Joey, thank you for joining us. Darren Porcher, former lieutenant with the New York City Police Department, covered major cases in New York City. Defense attorney Misty Maris is with us, and criminologist and attorney Casey Jordan. We have it all. First of all, Darren Porcher, I want to talk to you about what we just heard, because it's hard to listen to it. And the courage, we can't imagine the courage that he had in saying from his heart to the court. Your thoughts on what Marcus Arbery just told the judge?
This was a very galvanizing impact statement by the family. Just remember, the natural order is children bury the parents. The parents don't bury the children. This was an act that could have been, it shouldn't have happened. We had the Mcmichaels that killed Mr. Arbery as he was jogging during the afternoon, which was something that in all sense, it was an avoidable act. So when you look at Ahmaud Arbery's father standing at that podium, I really commend him, because this was an act of gallantry. And when we look at his level of courage in introducing this impact statement, I mean, it really sent chills down my spine. I personally wouldn't have been able to do this had I been in the reverse position. So that being said, I think the judge is capturing this information, and this is something that can potentially play out when we look at it giving a sentence of life without parole for both the Mcmichaels.
You know, Misty Maris, the prosecution started out with the father of Ahmaud Arbery, and we're going to play in a few minutes the other victim impact statements, but he begins by saying that his heart is broken and went on from there.
Yeah, Jane, so losing a loved one is the most difficult thing any person has to deal with. Now it's a child. Now it's a child under these circumstances, which are horrific. I think something that he said really stuck with me. He said when he shuts his eyes, he sees Ahmaud's execution. That brings me back to when we were watching the trial, watching that video over and over again. And now this is the father of the victim. It's just so relatable. Remember, this is all going to the judge and for the judge to take under consideration. And judges are humans too. This was a heart-wrenching victim impact statement. And you just felt his emotion as he was speaking. And I think everybody in that courtroom and us as viewers, including the judge, you could really feel that pain. And the last thing he said that really stuck with me, I was not there to protect my son. I mean, it's a terrible situation, and it's recognized by anyone who heard that statement.
Misty, what you're saying is just right on the money here. You know, Casey Jordan, we all have heard many victim impact statements and many sentencings. And the honesty that I heard in these was just, I think, unequaled.
I agree. And I wasn't quite sure what to expect from Marcus Arbery, because remember, the outburst in the court upon the reading of the verdict was Marcus Arbery and had to be removed from the courtroom. And I've been to victim impact statements where victims' families lose it. They start screaming at the defendants, and judges don't like that. So I was really impressed that it was measured. It was from the heart, and less is more. Simple is sometimes the most impactful. His vocabulary, talking about executions, talking about hate and evil. He used the words lynching. I mean, these words are really important and impactful, and they're not lost on the judge, and they're not lost on the world. I think he knew that what he talked about, being a father who would never see his son again, the inference was that, you know, Travis McMichael, his son is going to come visit him in prison. They get to see him all the time. I don't think it was lost on anyone in the courtroom and anyone who watches it. And I think, again, the strength was in its simplicity, and the fact that he ended with the fact that he's brokenhearted and it will never be the same.
You know, Joey Jackson, it's true what Casey is saying. There are jurisdictions that allow the victim impact statement, the person delivering it, to speak directly to the convicted felon. And I have seen that. I've been in the courtroom when it's happened. Here, they're speaking to the judge, but it makes it intimate in a sense. And because the judge will make the decision, and they're speaking to the court, to the judge, and really asking him for life without the possibility of parole.
Yeah, Gene, there's no question about that, and the other issue, remember the judge saying, to be clear, because there are rules of decorum and these can get out of hand. And so the judge saying, listen, I want all of you, remember, Gene, prior to the victim impact statements even beginning, just reminding everyone to really speak to me, right? And we know that, of course, Ahmaud Arbery's mother spoke to her son, which was nice, but you get what the judge was speaking of. There's sometimes bad blood, right? And you could get that. We're all human beings, and as much as we try to comport ourselves in an appropriate way, and you couldn't even, and none of us, how could you relate to someone who has lost a son in that tragic fashion? And so certainly things can come off the rails. But I think, the dignity with which all of them, the mother, the father, the sister, addressed the court, spoke about what their son, right, their brother meant to them, I think was very compelling. And when you have instances like this, it really takes us back to why we're all here. What brought us here? And it's you defendants who engaged in not only misconduct, but illegalities of the most egregious kind, which were absolutely avoidable. And at the end of the day, that's what the judge, I think, will be very driven by when he mets out a sentence that he believes to be just, appropriate, and warranted in each circumstance.
Yeah, that is correct. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, you're going to hear the other victim impact statements, and we're going to be going live to the courthouse in Georgia.
Hey guys, is anyone there? Guys, I'm all in this trial, seeing the verdict, because they're going to do the verdict today of the jogger that was killed. Like I said, you can sit that over there. Thank you. I just think that it's sad, that it had to come down to that, where a life was taken. Because I just think that, we need to learn how to respect others, and if you feel like, my thing is, if you feel like a person is doing something wrong or whatever, I just think that you need to call the law and let them handle that, and don't try to handle it on yourself, because the way they did that was just so wrong. So that's how I see it, but we need to start loving one another and helping each other instead of, killing one another. That's just not in my nature. That bothers me a lot, because you're taking someone's child away from them. You taking someone's son, someone's daughter. It's killing out here every single day. So it's very touching to me. I was literally in tears not too long ago because I could feel the pain. I can feel the pain, but I haven't lost a child like that, but I can feel it as being a mother. And I just think it's just so sad. My heart goes out to his family, both sides, because someone is losing, their husband to jail time, and they're losing a son. They'll never see him again. So it's just very touching to me. And I don't like violence. That's just me personally. I just don't like violence. If I could talk about it, then hey, let's do it. But killing and doing that, I disagree. I just hate that they did that they took their son away from them like that. It could have went different. Like, why didn't you think? It's like deep. So I'm just trying to get y'all input. What do y'all think about it? About the trial and the situation that's going on, with the 3 white men that killed the black guy. Because my thing is, I'm not about that race card where, if you're a different color, I don't like you, I don't look at that. I look at it, we all the same. I know a lot of people don't look at it like that, but I do. And I just feel like that we need to find a solution instead of killing. You know, so I'm all in it because, you know, I want, you know, the parents to get some justice, some closure, because that was wrong. You know, I would be lying, not being truthful if I say, okay, I didn't want them to get justice. Yes, I feel that they need justice. Excuse me, because I mean, y'all took their son away. You know, he was jogging. I mean, he had no weapons and none of that. You know, I don't understand it. You know, y'all had the Klan sign on there. It was like, to me, y'all was looking for trouble. So, you know, I just wanted you guys, you know, to chime in, you know, now, either later, when you all see the video, and just tell me, you know, y'all thoughts, what y'all think about it. So basically, that's what I'm doing. So, hi, London said hello. So I just think that that's just selfish to take another person's life for no reason. I really do. I mean, I just don't think that you should do that. You know, I know in some situations you have to protect yourself, like someone breaking in with a gun or doing something, and you got your kids, and I understand you got to defend yourself. But when you're out jogging and you don't have no gun or anything, and you're not doing anything wrong, I just feel that people need to leave you alone and let you, you know, continue your way on your way and doing what you do. So it's back on, but I just think that it's just so sad, you know, for that to happen.
I made a promise to you. Today, I laid you to rest. I told you I love you. And someday, somehow, I will get you justice. Son, I love you as much today as I did today that you were born. Raising you was the honor of my life, and I'm very proud of you. Your Honor, these men have chose to lie and attack my son and his surviving family. They each have no remorse and do not deserve any leniency. This wasn't a case of mistaken identity or mistaken fact. They chose to target my son because they didn't want him in their community. They chose to treat him differently than other people who frequently visited their community. And when they couldn't sufficiently scare him or intimidate him, they killed him. My youngest son, he was born on Mother's Day of 1994. He had a smile so bright it lit up a room. He was a greedy baby that seemed like he was always searching for something to stick into his mouth. He was always a loving baby who seemed to never tire of hugs, cuddling, and kisses. He never hesitated to tell me, his sister Jasmine, and his brother Marcus that he loved us. And Your Honor, we loved him back. He was messy. He sometimes refused to wear socks or take good care of his good clothing. I wish he would have cut and cleaned his toenails before he went out for that jog that day. I guess he would have if he knew he would be murdered. My family is gonna miss Ahmaud. We're going to miss his jokes, his impersonations, his warm smile.
These men deserve the maximum sentence for their crimes. Ahmaud never said a word to them. He never threatened them. He just wanted to be left alone. They were fully committed to their crimes. Let them be fully committed for the consequences. Your Honor, I'm standing here for you as the mother of Ahmaud Arbery, asking you to please give all three defendants who are responsible for the death of my son the maximum punishment in this court, which I do believe is life behind bars without the possible chance for parole. Thank you.
You know, Darren Porcher, that was tough to listen to for just sitting here. But the elegance of what she said and how she said it, and just zoning out everything and just talking directly to the judge, it was amazing.
We're listening to the mother of a slain child with such an amazingly tempered response in relation to the actions that resulted in the death of her son. I mean, this is a very commendable way of doing it. And it's just amazing that she's not being overcome by emotion. She's merely getting her message out there. And this is more of an aberration than the norm, because ultimately we as human beings are emotional creatures. So we react in connection with the stimulus of emotion, that being the death of one of our loved ones. But she stood tall as a strong woman that she is, and she amplified her message. And I thought that it was dynamic.
Dynamic is the word. You know, Misty Maris, I want you to listen to this and then comment, because with all of the emotion, she had a message in what she said. Listen to this and then we'll discuss.
He was messy. He sometimes refused to wear socks or take good care of his good clothing. I wish he would have cut and cleaned his toenails before he went out for that jog that day. I guess he would have if he knew he would be murdered.
Turning Ahmaud Arbery into a victim after the choices that he made does not reflect the reality of what brought Ahmaud Arbery to Satilla Shores in his khaki shorts with no socks to cover his long, dirty toes.
Missy Maris, for the mother of Ahmaud Arbery to bring that up today, I think denotes in one sense the impact that it had on her as a mother of an emotional reaction about her son that was said by the defense.
Absolutely, and we remember her reaction on the courthouse steps that day after that closing argument was made. And it was the fact that she brought that up in her victim impact statement connects her statement back to that objectively offensive statement made at trial. So that was certainly a response to what was a completely inappropriate argument raised by the defense attorneys for Greg Mcmichael. So her composure during this victim impact statement is astounding. And it was just so impactful to speak directly to Ahmaud and say, I promised to give you justice, and then to address the judge. And then not only to address the judge, but to connect the dots between what was said at trial to the victim impact statement. Overall, one of the most impactful statements I have ever heard covering so many trials.
Absolutely. Casey Jordan, I know the passion that you have for this. I know the passion you had when that statement was made by the defense. Now it is brought back by Ahmaud Arbery's mother as a direct message. What do you think that message is?
Yeah, we call that a zing. She zinged Greg Mcmichael's attorneys because that cut her to the core. It was meant to be an insult to her as a mother for not raising her son right. And she's portraying him as a baby who put things in his mouth. And yeah, like so many kids, he doesn't want to wear socks. And sometimes he leaves the house without cutting his toenails. But what she's pointing out is that you not only hit below the belt when you brought up those comments during the trial, but you made my son sound like an animal. And this is something I absolutely believe was intentional, that she's trying to portray the victim as somebody that's like a beast that deserved to be slain. And that really, I think, hurt the defense, but it's also something that really damaged the victim's family to portray their son that way. She's not over that. She never will be. She'll never get over the death of her son. But to really insult the family during the trial, she just wanted to have the last word with Greg Mcmichael's attorney and just say, you know what? He was just a human. He was just this guy who didn't always take care of his clothes and didn't always wear socks. And it humanized him. I thought her impact statement was incredible, very measured, and she was very methodical. She did not use the malice and hatred that the defendants did. She basically was just business as usual. They did the crime. They need to do the time. They need to take responsibility for their actions. And that's the kind of impact statement that actually has an impact.
All right, we're going to take a short break. At the top of the hour, the sentencing hearing will begin. We've got much more to go over. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, that was powerful. Did you hear the mom testimony, her statement? I mean, I like how she talked to her son about getting justice. Like, wow, that is just so, I don't know, that thing just about to bring me to tears once again. So, just want y'all guys to kind of let me know what your thoughts is on that. Because that is really deep as being a mom. Because I look at it like that could have been one of my kids, my sons. You know, I have 5 sons. So it's a very touching situation, you know, and my tears that I shedded was from a mother to a mother. That I, you know, hope that she get the justice that she wants, that she's looking for. It ain't about, it's not about race to me. I mean, on here it is, you know, they're saying, you know, because I guess he was black and stuff. But my thing is, you know, just her getting justice. Doesn't matter if it was someone the same race or wasn't a race. I just feel that that was wrong. So I just hope and pray that, you know, she get justice where, you know, it won't bring her son back, but at least she has some type of justice. So, you know, like I say, guys, you know, for the ones on here, you know, tell me how you feel, what you think, and for the ones that's gonna chime in later on, you know, y'all hit me up in my box, let me know what you think about the trial, you know, your thoughts and stuff, because this is really, you know, it's really emotional. It's really sad, it really is. So this nation is so filled with hate right now, and you know, it's, you know, right now it's a praying time. You know, it's just hatred all over the place. You know, and just to see that and know that I have sons that, you know, that could have been one of them. It's just, it's a touching situation. So my heart goes out to the family, because at the end of the day, I always say that could have been my son, you know, one of my sons. So you know, I just wish that, you know, we all could get along. Sorry, guys, but like I said, it's a touching situation and it's emotional because, you know, they have lost a son. And, you know, someone lost their son, a brother, as well, you know. So I just wish that we could come together and just love one another and just be there and be understanding and stop always trying to knock one another down or you know, it's just so many. It's just so many things that's just going on. You know, like I said, the killing, the jealousy, just everything. I just feel like it's evil people in this world that really needs help. You know, I just feel like they need God because I mean the things that they're doing is just not of God. You know, taking people lives and not being remorse about anything, you know, that they have done or what they are doing. You know, it's getting bad where, you know, your kids can't even go to school because of the shoot and little kids bringing guns in school, parents, you know, not, you know, watching their kids. It's like you got to talk to your kids, you got to teach them. You know, I'm not saying that they won't go off, you know, the side of the road, but if you instill that in them, you know, every day talking to them, you know, about life and not scared to see what they're going to say. I just feel like that you can get a lot of things done, you know, where they can understand you and you can understand them. Um, because a lot of times kids are doing things because they feel like they're not getting the attention from home, from their parents. I done had um, my son friends and stuff there say, you know, sometimes, well, a lot of times I hear them, you know, telling my kids, like, you know, y'all got a good mom. You know, she talks to y'all, she supports y'all, she listen, even if she might not like it. She don't yell. You know, she sit down and figure things out with you all. I wish I had a mom like that because my mama don't listen to me or my dad, you know, don't sit down and take time out with me. I mean, young kids, you know, even to ones that's from the ages from like 9 years old up to 18-year-olds. I mean, I got so many kids, I'm gonna tell you, that calls me mom. Hey mom, hey mom. You know, so I have about 1 million kids, but that's all our kids want. It's just some attention, understand, listen to them sometimes because I'm telling you, I mean, there's so many kids out here getting killed in gangs, doing all this stuff, you know, because they feel like that the streets are their family instead of us, you know. So you have to take your role and stand as, you know, parents around, you know, and put your foot down and don't be scared. And then also, you know, you can be a friend, but let them know, you know, I'm still your mom. You know, that's number one. So it's just sad because, like I say, it's just so much of killing and hatred going around. I don't understand it. You know, um, black on black. You know, it's just, you know, we talk about, you know, Black Lives Matter, but then we sit and we be so quick to take one another's life, you know, in a blink of an eye. You know, we need to talk about that. Like, how can we stop that? What solution we can come up with that? Um, I just think it's still go deeper, but I'm not going. I done got off the trial, but um I just want to kind of share that a little bit. I'll probably come back on where I'm just really talking about, you know, topics of, you know, how we can come up with solutions or loving one another, understanding each other instead of always want to kill, stab, rob, and all that. Like, okay, when are we going to come up with a solution like that? Like we say, Black Lives Matter, which it does, and I support that. But what about, you know, our own race killing one another so quick? You know, of a blink of an eye. Like, we got to come up with something, guys, something different, something better. Stop always trying to pull one down. You get up a little higher than the one, and the other one wants to pull you down instead of you doing something that you love to get up there as well. Work hard to get where you want to be. My thing on my channel, I started off, and it's still Mama in London girly business, but I noticed my channel is just not cornstarch. Like I said, it's about me doing things with London because she's my only girl. But I do eat cornstarch, and so, but I'm not gonna turn my channel into just a cornstarch channel. I like to do different things with my daughter, and stuff like that. And I have got mean people that have said some mean things to me. And my thing is, I'm not going to interact, on negative stuff. It had to be positive, and it's a shame that, people take their time out and get on people's channels to down them. My thing is, uplift a person. If you ain't got nothing good to say, like you used to say back in the day with my mom, then don't say anything at all. But it's just so crazy to me. Like, wow, you gonna get on my channel and do that? Like, really? But it's okay because God got me. Me and my daughter. So I just think the one person that's watching, that's on live right now with me, thank you. Even if it's only one, every time I get on here, 1, 2, or 3, I'm gonna keep going. I trust God. I know He'll work it out. But like I said, I love doing what I do with London as well as myself and stuff like that. But for the people that's all, mean and stuff like that, God bless you. God bless you. Because you need it. God bless you. So I will have a topic on that as well. So I definitely don't want to, miss the trial and everything, but I did want to kind of share that because this world is ugly. It really is. It's ugly. It's full of jealousy and all that. And I just don't understand it. My thing is, find something that you like, pray about it, ask God to show you what you need to do, and then get you a little career, whatever you want to do, and build yourself. Stop trying to always knock the next person down, or want to see somebody dead, just different little things. Like, stop it. You're too old for that, but I just think that it's just sad that people just, take time out to get on people trying to say, oh, you know what, I don't like you. Okay, because you eat cornstarch, or you too fat, or you retarded, or, you got kids and this and that. Don't judge a person because you don't know, their story. A lot of people don't know my story, but don't judge me. Don't do that. My thing is, if you don't like what I say, go on, go to someone else's page and be blessed by it, because my thing is, God gonna take care of me regardless, me and my kids. So, like I said, I'm waiting on this trial because I don't want to miss that. But I just wanted to talk a little bit because I just felt that. But hey, London.
Hey.
But I have boys and stuff, and I'm just so scared for them, but my thing is, I know I have to trust God and put them in the Lord's hands because it's so dangerous out here. And like I say, this trial is really touching me. It really is. A mother has lost her child and a father. And I just always take it back to me like that could have been my son, like just jogging because my son likes to exercise too. And he loved to run and lift weights and stuff, so it just takes me to, I put my foot in their shoes. Like, I don't think I could have stood up there and talked on the stand calmly. I think I would have fell apart. Not yelled at the men that done it, but I just don't think that I could have handled it, because it's just that deep. So I just I just think that it's sad. So that's why, I put it on my channel, for people to see, and like I said, I pray that they get justice. I know it won't bring their child back, but where they get a little peace. Because I don't think that, excuse me, I don't think that even though they would get life, it's still not, it wouldn't matter, but to me, if it was me, but it still wouldn't bring my child back. So it's just a touch and go situation with me. It just takes me to a place where I don't like to be. And that's really, just sad. Like, this world is so cruel. It really is. And that's why I teach my kids, to love one another and don't judge people by their color or their skin, because God made us all. So I don't want my kids growing up like that. Well, I don't like you because you're a different race or, the color of your skin. I don't want that. I don't want to teach them hatred. But I want them to understand, like, London, she's my only girl. I have 6 kids, and London is my only girl. And London, she's very sensitive. She just, anything make her cry, anything, and she don't understand why people are so mean, in a, out here in the world. We was at the mall, and we was walking, and I had made a mistake, and I had bumped into um, a man, and he was Caucasian, and I didn't mean to. My bag had hit him, and he had called me a nigger, and she was just like, "Mama, did you hear what that man called you?" Which I really did, and I just didn't want to interact with him with that, because he told me, he was like, "Nigger, watch what you're doing." And so I had apologized, and I kept going. And so, like I told London, she couldn't understand, like, "Well, Mama, you didn't say anything." And my thing is, people are crazy nowadays, but at the same time, that's life. Some people are going to be mean, and you can't always, respond to negativity. You have to just go on. So that's what I'm trying to teach her. But it's like she kind of struggling with that a little bit, when it comes to, how people act and treat you. So she just don't understand that. She have seen, that different occasions that happen to us. So she just like, does that just happen down here in South Carolina? And I'm like, London, hatred is all over the world. You can't let people change you. You have to keep going. So that's just something I'm trying to teach her, because when I had to bring London out of school, this before the pandemic had started. She was getting bullied at school, and so I had to go, and I had to talk to the principal and everything, because I didn't understand what was going on, because at first I didn't know. But London kept saying, like, before I found out it was like a week, she kept saying, "Mom, I want to go back to school." And I'm like, because she loves school, and she kept saying, "Mom, I want to go back to school." And I'm like, London, why? I was like, you got to learn and stuff. That's how you want to be a doctor. You got to, learn, everything that you need to learn and stuff. And so come to find out, she was getting bullied, but she didn't tell me, because it was like, I think it was a one Caucasian little boy, and it was like 3 Caucasian little girls, and they was bullying her, and they used to tell her that she didn't look good in her clothes, her boots. She used to wear like Timberland boots, and I used to have her like on some little jeans and different little things, and her little tummy coat and stuff, and they would pick on her and push her and stuff like that, and making sure, because we will get back to the trial, but one day London had said she had said like it went on a week, and then that next week came, and she went to school and she came home, and when she was finna go back to school that next day, she said, "Mama," she said, "I don't want to live no more." And I said, "What do you mean by that?" And then she was like, "I don't want to live no more. I want to die." And that tore my heart to pieces. And I was like, Linda, why would you say that? And she was like, "Mama, I've been bullied. They been so mean to me." So I knew as a mom, I had to get on that. So I went and I told them, I said, "That is not acceptable." And so I went up there to the school, and me and my family and everything. And, I talked, and like I told them, I said, "Let me tell you something." I said, "My daughter is talking about taking her life." I said, "That would not happen." I said, "Because she knows, she's going to know what she already knows. She is alone, and she can come to school, without people bullying her." So when my daughter told me she wanted to kill herself, that made me look at life different with the kids. And so I went up to the school, and I had me and my family, we went in the office and everything, and they pulled the teachers in, and I was letting them know. I said, "Linda, tell me who." I said, "Tell me who." So the kids, so they had got the kids, but they didn't bring them in the same room that we was in and stuff, because I told them my concerns. And like I told my daughter, would not take her life. No one would never make my daughter feel like that. She is not good enough to be on this earth. No one. And stuff. So they got it right. But then I think it went on for like 3 more days. At first they had got it right for a couple of days, and then it went back. And so I just started going up there. So like I told them, if y'all don't get something done, I was bringing in the law, but they end up getting it done. They had got her out that room and everything. Because when a child tell you they don't want to live anymore and they feel ugly and worthless, that's a problem. You got to get on that thing right then and there. And my thing with London, I was like, "London, you should have told me this." Because we talk about everything. I said, "Don't you ever be scared. I don't care what nobody say. You come and talk to me." So I just decided, as well as her, that she wanted to be online. So that's why she been online ever since. I didn't let her go back because she feel more comfortable here with me and being around the family and stuff. So that's why I say, we have to talk to our kids. We have to encourage our kids, so they won't be getting bullied at school and stuff. So, this trial is very touching because, like I said, that could have been my child. But thank God, he intervened with London, her situation and stuff. But she don't feel like that anymore because I got it right. But I think this trial finna get back on. Like I said, I will talk about this a little bit more. But I definitely don't want to miss this trial. They have some commercials on, but I just think that we need to talk to our kids, But like I said, y'all, give me some input on what y'all think about this trial. Because I'm telling y'all, they got me tore up over here. I'm just waiting for the verdict. For the verdict to come in. Yeah, that's right. So, hey, Cecilia. Yeah, I wanted to be served because this right here is just not good. That's awful taking their son away from them like that. That could have been my child. So, it's just crazy. Hey, I am at the beach over here, all emotional about this trial. So, I'm just waiting. Yes, it's very difficult to watch that. Do you have any boys or kids? Y'all gonna call me a crybaby. You have 3. Oh, okay. Well, keep them safe. Talk to your kids. So where you from? I'm from North Carolina too. So hopefully, like I said, they will get the justice that they deserve. Let's see.
The fatal shots. And Mr. Arbery came at him and grabbed the gun, as Dr. Donahue demonstrated. These were not, and as reckless as those acts may have been, as Ms. Donikoski pointed out, as thoughtless as they may have been, they are not evidence of a soul so blackened as to deserve to spend the rest of his life in prison. This was not a planned murder. This was not a murder involving torture. It was a fight over a gun that resulted in Mr. Arbery's death.
Casey Jordan, if we look at the facts for a minute, if Travis Mcmichael is sentenced to life with the possibility of parole, he will not be out until he's 65 years old. I mean, that's the best can be done for him in this sentencing hearing. Why not allow him to have redemption? Why not allow him to possibly, if a parole board has to allow it, possibly be allowed out when he's 65?
I think that Linda pretty much summed it up by emphasizing the word responsibility. And in the victim impact statements, we have this notion that the family of Ahmaud Arbery will never see their son again. So why should the family of Travis Mcmichael get to see their son again? The bottom line is that he is presenting Travis Mcmichael as somebody who is potentially a good candidate for redemption, for growth. He says something down the line about how he could be on the outside, he could make a difference. He could essentially teach anti-racism. But the problem is that this is completely incongruous with everything that he has said and represented himself on the stand during the trial, which is that he was justified in doing what he did, and that he has never owned any, and he can't, of course, with federal charges impending, he's never owned the racist nature of the attack. So it's really almost insulting, almost offensive that he's arguing that his client should be given a second chance when he gets out at 65 or not. He could make a difference in the world. It's almost like saying, maybe somebody who is convicted of rape should get out and become a counselor for rape victims. I think it's really doing a disservice to his client, but it's his job to use everything within his power to mitigate Travis's culpability.
All right, and the defense is saying that this is not vengeance. That's not the issue of what a sentence should be, that this is whether there can be redemption for someone. We're going to take a short break before this hearing reconvenes. Sit close.
Why do dermatologists worldwide recommend La Roche-Posay? Effective skincare like La Roche-Posay Double Repair Face Moisturizer delivers double action to help repair skin's barrier and provide 48-hour hydration for healthy-looking skin. La Roche-Posay.
Living with metastatic breast cancer means being relentless.
Because every day matters. And having more of them is possible with Verzenio, the only one of its kind proven to help you live significantly longer when taken with fulvestrant, regardless of menopause.
Verzenio plus fulvestrant is for HR-positive, HER2-negative metastatic breast cancer that has progressed after hormone therapy. Diarrhea is common, may be severe, or cause dehydration or infection. At the first sign, call your doctor, start antidiarrheal and drink fluids. Before taking Verzenio, tell your doctor about any fever, chills, or other signs of infection. Verzenio may cause low white blood cells.
Y'all guys tell me what y'all think about the trial. I'm on another commercial, but it's very deep. It really is. You're so welcome. I wanted to share it because I know that, there's some people on here probably have boys and girls, but definitely men's, because they're getting killed left and right from the police, from, hatred, all kinds of things. So thank you all for, chiming in and everything. I suppose it went out, but this trial done caught my, my attention, because I've been waiting on this trial and the verdict for the Senate. So, excuse me, I ate some sunflower seeds. They kind of choked me a little bit. Hold on, guys. Let me see what they're talking about. Let's see.
Victory isn't really in the event the judge says, you know what, I do agree with you. I will consider that, and I'll allow your client to have life with parole. But of course, we know, to your point, it'll be 30 years later. You do the math, calculating 65 plus 30 gives you 95. And so what victory is that at all? But I think, Gene, when the judge really is evaluating all these, he's considering three things, to be clear. Number one, the judge is considering punishment and what punishment is appropriate as to all the defendants. Number two, the judge is considering the issue of deterrence, right? You need to, when you fashion a remedy, a sentence, deter conduct like this that could be engaged in by anyone else. And so you want to send a message, if you're the judge, deterring anyone and everyone who might do something like this from doing it. And then the third issue that we've talked about is the issue of rehabilitation. And really, rehabilitation when you're 95, what does it really matter? And so I think the judge will be focused on those two issues, punishment and deterrence. And I think to that extent, I believe that we're going to see life sentences without parole for the Mcmichaels. And I think it's likely that Roddy Bryant get life with parole, as was asked for by the prosecutor.
You know, Darren Porcher, the big question is, are we going to hear from Travis McMichael? Are we going to hear from Gregory McMichael or Roddy Bryant? They have a right to speak to the court. And allocution is what you call it. But we also heard Bob Rubin say there's a federal trial that's just about to begin. Any attorney worth his salt is not going to have his clients say anything. Now, he was talking about the past, that they had no regret for what they did. But what do you think? Do you think the defendants are going to speak today?
Well, I think it's a slippery slope because remember, Travis McMichael did speak in the initial trial proceedings. However, going into another proceeding, being the federal court, all of what's going to be explained in this particular trial can be used against the McMichaels in the upcoming federal trial. So I think that it wouldn't be of great significance for the McMichaels to make a statement in relation to what happened. And it really remains to be seen, but I highly doubt that the statements would be made.
You know, Misty Maris, in the federal trial that is supposed to take place in 1 month, they have pleaded not guilty. So for any of them to stand up and apologize, I am so sorry that could not fare well for them. Is there anything that could be fashioned so that it would be strong, maybe for them, and then maybe also give some solace to the family?
So, Jean, it's a very difficult situation with the impending federal trial because, as Travis McMichael's attorney said, the advice of a defense attorney is going to be, don't make a statement because we don't want to risk anything coming out during that statement that could potentially negatively impact the federal case. Now, could they say something very contrite, something that's very limited? They're so limited on what they could possibly say. Would it be effective? And that's really what the question is, right? Because of those limitations, is it going to be effective and really move the ball one way or the other for the judge, who is the audience here? It's the judge, not a jury. But I agree with you, Jean. Saying something that would give the family some solace, and let's go back to Derek Chauvin. If you remember, we all thought he would not make a statement because of the same issue. He made his short statement, but then we found out he intended to plead guilty in the federal case. So a lot of different factors to take into consideration, but a difficult position for these defendants to say anything today at the sentencing hearing.
And we are minutes away. The courtroom is filling up right now, and it is going to be the defense turn to beg for mercy before that court. But this morning, it was all about the Arbery family. It was all about their emotions, their feelings. We want you to listen to some excerpts from the Arbery family.
And Your Honor, we loved him back. He was messy. He sometimes refused to wear socks or take good care of his good clothing. I wish he would have cut and cleaned his toenails before he went out for that jog that day. I guess he would have if he knew he would be murdered. My family is gonna miss Ahmaud. We're going to miss his jokes, his impersonations, his warm smile.
All right, we want to take you back into that courtroom live right now. All the parties are assembled. Let's listen.
Travis Mcmichael had completed his presentation to the court. Greg Mcmichael.
Your Honor, I want to begin by just addressing some case law that seems to apply to the, I want to say, piling on of the additional felonies, and that they do not merge, which is the state's position. I point the court to Noel versus the state, 297 Georgia 698, a 2015 case. And it says, in fact, what Ms. Dunikoski's position is, that the additional felony murder counts will be vacated by operation of law when they involve the same victim. But in that case, there was, as there is in this case, additional felonies, which in Noel, there was a question about whether the trial court should have also sentenced and not merged those into the felony murder counts, which were vacated by operation of law. I want to make a separate argument. This is the first time we heard of this morning. I know of no law that prohibits the court from conducting merger before the vacating of the by operation of law. So in other words, if you were to merge the underlying felonies into the felony murder counts, and then those counts are vacated by operation of law, we don't even need to consider this. But in Noel, this Georgia Supreme Court case, this court concluded that the trial court had failed to sentence on the underlying felonies that were the predicates for those felony murder counts that were vacated by operation of law, but did not automatically say that the trial court erred in not sentencing on those. In Noel, the Supreme Court ordered the trial court to make a determination, and I quote, whether the remaining non-murder felonies merge as a matter of fact into the felony murder conviction, and that's why the case was remanded back. And interestingly, in the Noel case, the Hewlett case is cited, 296 Georgia 49. That's a 2014 Georgia Supreme Court case. Same issue as before about the felony murders being vacated by operation of law. And then but in Hewlett, it was a malice murder case as well. But it gave some instruction, and I suppose that's why the Noel court relied on Hewlett, gave some instruction about whether there would in fact be merger. And in Hewlett, the important distinction was whether the felony that then led to felony murder was followed almost immediately by the death of another. So the question was whether there was a, quote, deliberate interval between the offense and the death. For those reasons, Your Honor, I asked the court to find as a matter of fact that those felonies do merge and that there is no reason and no statutory obligation for the court to sentence on the other remaining felonies that the state wishes to proceed on.
So I understand what you're saying. What you're saying is there's no deliberate interval then, because there are other cases.
Yes, I'm sorry, I just realized that I put that. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying, Your Honor, that all of this took place in a continuing manner, that there was no stop and start between the beginning of the chase, we'll call it, and the end, which led to the tragic death. So for that reason, I think that it can be distinguished from some of the other cases that Ms. Dunikoski may be relying on But it certainly stands for the proposition that simply because the felony murders are vacated by operation of law does not mean that the underlying felonies have to be sentenced upon. They don't still exist. They aren't still there. There still is a question of merger by operation of fact.
Okay.
All right. So, between the two statutory sentencing options that are before this court, the state is asking for the sentence of life without the possibility of parole. And they made that position known back in September of 2020, specifically September 16th of 2020, when they filed a notice of the state's intention to introduce evidence in aggravation of punishment. And in that notice, Your Honor, under the final box that's checked, the state indicated that it intended to seek life without the possibility of parole by relying upon three statutory code sections: 1651, which is simply the murder statute; 1710-2, which is the statute of criminal procedure that provides for what we're doing here today, the presentation of evidence in support of any sentence that each party is seeking. And finally, 1710-6.1 is the third code section on which the state relied in seeking life without the possibility of parole. And in that code section, that is, as the court knows, sets forth the inability for any individual who is incarcerated for the first time on an aggravating, on a violent felony, which results in a sentence of life with the possibility of parole, to not be considered for any form of release or parole until after the service of 30 years in prison. Those were the reasons the state said we seek punishment of the defendant in this manner. And at the top of their notice of seeking aggravation of punishment, the state indicated in September of 2020 that they intend to introduce evidence of any convictions, juvenile adjudications, and other crimes of the defendant furnished as part of the reciprocal discovery. What the court knows is that there are no other crimes and no other pieces of evidence that support that statutory ground for seeking aggravation of punishment. So in the absence of that sort of evidence, which is the evidence the state indicated back in September it would provide, an absence, as the court knows from the bond hearing and having had those documents provided to it, there is an absence of any criminal history by Greg Mcmichael, which is a significant factor in your consideration of what sentence to impose. So, without any of the aggravating evidence that was set forth in the notice, the state has told this court now, we wish to simply rely on the facts of the case. And in particular, what Ms. Dunikoski argued is, number one, what she called a pattern of vigilantism. But every example she gave, Your Honor, was not, in fact, vigilantism, gathering up folks who have no authority to do so and taking the law in your own hands. Her examples were notifications that Greg Mcmichael made to law enforcement about suspicious activity and suspicious people in their neighborhood. And in fact, that is exactly what a neighborhood watch program is all about. That's what Officer Rash testified to you. We can't survive without neighbors who will let us know what's going on and provide us the evidence we need to investigate crime. Very different, and not at all related to some sort of pattern of vigilantism, which is a violent act. The second fact on which the state said that they were relying, based on the facts of the case, to seek an aggravation of punishment from a life with parole, meaning no consideration for anything less than 30 years, all the way up to life with absolutely no window of opportunity, is that Greg Mcmichael has shown no remorse or empathy. The difficulty of our adversarial system, a system that is the best system we know of, is that it still leaves no opportunity for an accused to turn and be the person you know he's been for 30 years, for 66 years, and offer condolences to another person for their sadness and for their loss. The other problem with the adversarial system that I know all too well is that an individual who is committed to telling the stories, to explaining to a jury how an individual got where they are right now, often feels like a defense attack on the surviving relatives of this loved one. A vigorous defense often results in the sadness of people who have lost a loved one. But those are the roles that we honorably take on. Our remaining stoic in the face of heartbreaking testimony this morning from people who have lost a loved one is because that's our role in this courtroom. This court has very handily taken care of emotional outbursts to make sure that we're dealing with law and facts and not the kind of thing that can otherwise affect a court or a system that should remain free of those sorts of emotions. So, Your Honor, like Mr. Rubin said, it really isn't anything that I suspect the court will be taking into consideration, the fact that Greg Mcmichael didn't and couldn't stand up and offer his genuine sadness and condolence for the loss of a loved one, because he's facing other crimes. He's facing charges and trials on other crimes, criminally and civilly. And I hope the court knows that what we need to do to tell his story in any case involving justification, of which there was sufficient evidence to move forward with a request to charge, is that there has to be a clear, palpable, full-throated explanation to a jury about how it is that an individual put himself in a place where our clients felt they had to defend themselves. It must be terribly difficult to hear when it concerns your loved one who's no longer here. And it probably feels cold. But the court knows those are our roles, and it's the only way to make sure that our system operates as it should. So, Your Honor, with no statutory aggravating circumstances, like in a death penalty case, how do you decide? We now know there are no statutory aggravators based on the notice. We now have told you about how the factors that the state said arise out of the trial actually escalate this out of life with parole to life without parole. I suggest to the court that we rely on a wonderful system that the federal United States sentencing guidelines set up and the United States Code, and that's you look at two things. You look at the nature and circumstances of the offense. and you look at the history and the characteristics of the defendant. Let's talk number one about the nature and circumstance of the offense. The best indicator of what happened in order to respect the jury's verdict is to listen to the jury's verdict. The jury found that Greg Mcmichael, as a party to the crime, committed felonies that unintentionally led to Ahmaud Arbery's death. After deliberating for over 10 hours, over 2 days, they came back with a unanimous verdict that says, in effect, Greg Mcmichael did not leave his home that day hoping to kill. He did not view his son firing that shotgun with anything other than fear and sadness. What this jury found is that this was an unintentional act, one that Greg Mcmichael did not plan, devise, attempt, or seek to have the result that happened. So if life without parole is a sentence that is held for only the worst of the worst, it simply can't be a sentence for a person who never intended that tragic result that took place on February 23rd. If you never wanted another person to die as a result of activities you took part in, you can't be the worst of the worst. Secondly, Your Honor, under 1710-2, the things that this court should consider, you should take in account extenuating or mitigating evidence that you heard in trial. Heard in trial based on the presentation of evidence over several days that Greg Mcmichael sought to detain Ahmaud Arbery for one reason and one reason only. It was not for sport. It was not for evil. It was for the same reason that the police who repeatedly came to Satilla Shores came there for. It was to get to the bottom of Ahmaud Arbery's nighttime intrusion into Larry English's house. The verdict spoken by this jury, based on their understanding of the law of citizen's arrest, found that Greg Mcmichael did not possess the information he needed to possess to attempt to execute a citizen's arrest. And that meant that Travis was not in a position to defend himself because he was the initial aggressor, if there was no citizen's arrest that could be supported by the facts and the law. That is the offense that you heard. A reason that is not an evil reason, not a reason of hate, not a reason of anything other than trying to help other people to get to the bottom of this inquiry. Further support of extenuating and mitigating circumstances from the trial you saw in the video itself. As painful as it was to watch, I'm sure the court does recall that when you saw Greg Mcmichael in the back of the pickup truck, in the bed of the pickup truck, not directing, not doing anything that's going to be the person who's advancing the progression of this from the chase, the attempt to stop and detain Ahmaud Arbery into what it ultimately became, you most importantly saw that Greg Mcmichael never even sought to remove his handgun from its holster until after you heard the first shot. The first shot that took place in front of that pickup truck. So while he's on the phone begging for 911 to come and help, that is the moment he removed his handgun and never fired a shot. That is the nature and the circumstances of the offense that this court heard and upon which the jury reached their verdict. So now, the history and the characteristics of Greg McMichael. Because we know that history is the only reliable measure of a person's character. Greg McMichael is 66 years old. So, Ms. Dunikoski, there has not been just 99 good deeds, but more like thousands and thousands of big and little good acts of kindness, charity, goodwill throughout this man's life. Greg McMichael is a good man. He's not a perfect person. None of us are. But he's lived a good life, a life dedicated to service. And that does count for something. The choices he made as a young man all the way through the rest of his life to serve, not to acquire wealth, not to do anything that brought extreme attention to himself, but to quietly go through the business of choosing career options to help other people. You heard at the bond hearing and during the trial of this case, Greg McMichael chose as a young man to serve this country by enlisting in the Navy. And after an honorable discharge, some years later decided to serve his community. Over 30 years in law enforcement. He was not a patrol officer, then later a detective, then later an investigator with the DA's office because he sought power. There was no evidence of anything like that. There were never any complaints about him being aggressive, about him seeking to take matters in his own hands without seeking the appropriate backups. He was not a gun-toting, aggressive officer. His wife testified during the bond hearing. One matter of pride that Greg McMichael always had is that he never had to discharge his weapon during the service of his community. And of course, he wasn't a law enforcement officer or an investigator for the DA's office for money. That's laughable. He did it to help. He did it to serve and protect other people. His post file that the court had into evidence during the bond hearing indicated numbers of commendations and notes from people in the community indicating how grateful they were for his willingness to participate in a case, for his willingness to go the extra mile, for his kindness to families of people who had lost loved ones. Things that are above and beyond the work that he needed to do. Those examples of commitment, of empathy and kindness are further examples of who Greg McMichael is. He is a husband for over 38 years through thick and thin to the woman that he met and married months later. He's a son, a brother, a father, and a devoted grandfather. So yes, that's how I stand before you, Your Honor. Representing Greg McMichael, who has now been convicted of murder. And I say without hesitation, he remains a man of goodness. For 66 years, I calculated that's 24,105 days of life on this planet. And we're here, not for a small matter, not as if all of the other erases what happened on that day. But we are here for a driveway decision to pursue Ahmaud Arbery and a 5-minute chase that ended in tragedy. He needs to be punished. But how that contrast between a life of goodwill and service and the bad decisions that were made that day that resulted in a tragedy that the jury said unanimously he never intended could end up in the state seeking the sort of sentence that is devised for the worst of the worst is not consistent. In many courtrooms, Your Honor, that I appear in, right behind the judge, and it might be that way in Chatham County, there is the seal of the state of Georgia. And our Georgia state seal has 3 words on it: wisdom, justice, but most importantly, moderation. Life without parole versus life with the possibility of parole may be nothing more than academic for a 66-year-old man with significant health problems, because it means 30 years, at the very least, in prison. But it is an important distinction. It will affect all sorts of other things that could happen to Greg Mcmichael while he's in prison. But most significantly, it is the only way, Your Honor, to honor the jury's verdict that Greg Mcmichael committed crimes for which he never intended the result. For that reason, for the lack of evidence of aggravation, for the presence of significant evidence of extenuation and mitigation, we ask the court to sentence Mr. Mcmichael to life with the possibility of parole.
Mr. Goff.
Your Honor, we're going to need a short recess before we proceed. I need to triple check a matter. 5-minute recess.
All right, well, let's make it realistic. Let's take a 10-minute recess, and then we'll come back on the record at 1:45. Thank you.
All right, so there you have it. The argument by the attorney for Gregory Mcmichael. Very strong, very passionate, saying that the jury, look at what he was convicted of. He was not convicted of an intentional crime, and therefore that deserves the possibility of parole. Joey Jackson, your thoughts on this as a defense attorney, as she is passionately giving all of the reasons of why there should be a bit of leniency at this point?
Yeah, I certainly, get and understand where she's going. And as a defense attorney, certainly you have the facts that are there. What I don't like or would ever appreciate, and I don't think a court does, is a relitigation of the matter. The jury has concluded what they concluded, notwithstanding what your personal view or agreement or what you urged upon that jury that they rejected. However, having said that, Dean, I think that if you look at what he's convicted of, that is her client, Greg Mcmichael. If you look at the issue of intent, I think that plays big, right? When it relates to felony murder, you need not have the intention. If a death occurs and there is an underlying felony, like aggravated assault, like the fact that you're either kidnapping or engaged in some conduct to otherwise confine him, false imprisonment, right? Then you have what you have is felony murder. And so certainly the issue of intent is something that is very relevant to the judge. In addition, and finally, the issue about considering her client's life in the spectrum of his now 66 years and all the other things that he may have done, and not measuring it by a snapshot in time. However, that snapshot in time is very significant. I do like the fact that she really related it to these federal rules, and these federal rules of evidence suggest that you look at the nature of the offense and you look at the individual's background, etc., and that's what she did. At the end of the day, though, Gene, let's be clear and real. And you brought up the greatest point of all. Given the fact that he's 66, even if her argument carries the day, even if the judge says, I do agree with you, and that weighs heavily, there was not intent. I agree with you. He has used his life in many other instances for kindness and goodwill. And the judge says, okay, 30 years, 66 plus 30, 96. What real headway did you make? And the realities here are just harsh. The leverage she has is very minimal. And I think, she's darned if she does, darned if she doesn't. Her client is facing a world of hurt momentarily when the judge pronounces his sentence.
Misty Maris, let's go forward with that, what Joey was just saying a minute ago, because she is arguing a fiction, really. She's arguing because he would be 96 years old when he would get out. But she is passionately arguing to get that possibility of parole. Is there anything that once he would go to prison, that he would go to an area of the prison that would not be confined for the worst of the worst, or his conditions would be a bit better? I mean, how does it benefit him in this fiction scenario to have the possibility of parole?
Gene, I'm not sure that it really does, that there's any practical impact of a verdict, of a sentencing that gives the possibility of parole. I think her strongest legal arguments, as Joey said, related to those nuanced legal arguments, equating it to the federal law, talking about what the prosecution was seeking in their submission and how they have not raised the aggravating factors as they had said in that document. And those are nuanced legal arguments that are all being presented to this judge, who, that's the audience, right? A judge who is going to be paying attention to those types of very nuanced arguments. But Gene, to answer your question, there's really no practical impact for Gregory Mcmichael due to his